everyone, and welcome to our Get to Know Glasgow podcast. So this is a very special episode. This is students all from the rest of the UK who have come to Glasgow specifically to study at the University of Glasgow. So as I say, we're all originally from different parts of the UK. I currently work for the university. I'm a UK Student Recruitment officer, but I did also study at the university and I was originally from London. So I came up from London. What I'll do is I'll just introduce our three lovely student ambassadors. If you could just kind of tell us where you guys are from and what you are studying. So can we start with Nyah?
Hi, I'm Nyah. I'm a third year dental student at the University of Glasgow and I'm originally from London as well. And yeah, I've also moved up to Scotland for university.
And if we move over to Harriet.
Hi, I'm a fourth year psychology student, also from London as well. And yeah, been to Glasgow and been living in Glasgow for 4 years.
Thanks very much. And last but not least, Kaitlin.
Hi, I'm Kaitlin. I'm a fourth year international relations student from Newcastle.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. So we've got a bit of a mix there of different parts of the UK. So what we will maybe start off with is just life in Glasgow. So we all came to Glasgow from our different parts of the UK. What I will say is Glasgow Uni is like a really good balance of like a campus and a city university. We're not kind of based in the middle of Glasgow, we're based in the West End, and there's a really good kind of balance between the kind of student life and the city life. If we could maybe just talk about kind of our favourite parts of the university campus and what we really love about the university. We maybe start off with Harriet.
Yeah, I think for me, my favourite part about the campus is the fact that it's kind of ingrained into the West End and its surroundings. So I love the fact that when you're walking around, you can get to Kelvin Grove Park if you go on one side and you can be in nature. And you can walk 5 minutes back into campus and you're surrounded by like the library and all the different buildings that you need. So I feel like it's got quite a good balance of being quite urban and built up, but also having like trees and the River Kelvin nearby. And in terms of spots on campus, I quite like coffee shops, mainly just to go somewhere for like a break in between lectures or if I've just had like a meeting with a supervisor. So there's quite a good few coffee shops in the main building itself that I quite like going into. And because the main building is quite pretty and historic, it kind of feels fancy when you're getting a coffee or a latte. So yeah, I'd probably say my favorite things are the fact that it's connected to nature and the campus is kind of quite ingrained into its surroundings. So it's easy to kind of get a break from the buildings itself and all of the kind of different coffee shops or places to chill on campus too. So you just get a break from the library or different studying spots.
That's great. Thank you so much, Harriet. And if I maybe move on to Kaitlin next, just because obviously you study on campus, Nyah, you do dentistry, so it's slightly different. So we'll come to you sort of last. But yeah, Kaitlin, what are your kind of favourite spots on campus and any favourite facilities?
Yeah, Harriet kind of had mine actually, because I love the main campus. I love like the cloisters. I love like walking around the east and west quads. Whenever I have a lecture there, I'm so happy because it's so aesthetic. But I also love the coffee shops on campus. There's one like inside next to the Gilchrist Postcard Club, and they do really, really nice coffee. It's a really nice room. So I like to go in there. I also like the library. I think there's maybe just like a bit of Stockholm syndrome because I've been in there so much lately. But I do like the library. It's nice. It's very comfy. I love being at the top floors and you can see like the view of the university underneath.
That's great. Thank you so much, Kaitlin. I think our kind of main building is pretty iconic when it comes to kind of our students and the things they love about the university. So on to you, Nyah. So yeah, as I say, you do dentistry. So your building is based on Sauchiehall Street, which is slightly off campus. Is that right?
Yep. So we're based in the Glasgow Dental Hospital, which is on Sauchiehall Street, and there's quite a lot to do down Sauchiehall Street and down Buchanan, like where Buchanan Galleries is. But a lot of the time we actually do tend to come back to campus for the James McCune Smith building, which is where we mostly work, which if you've seen it from the outside is huge, but if you go inside it's massive. And I think that's been pretty good for grabbing a coffee because they've got a little cafe inside and working with friends. And just like Harriet said, I really like the campus because of the difference between all the green spaces you have with the Kelvin Grove Park and then coming onto campus and the historic buildings, which you, like you said, you can literally see lit up from outside of West End.
That's great. Thanks, Nyah. So the university is in the West End. There are really great transport links into kind of the city centre, so the main parts of Glasgow. Glasgow is the biggest city in Scotland. So Edinburgh is obviously the capital, but Glasgow is actually the biggest city. And because there are quite a few different universities in Glasgow, I think it really does kind of cater to the students in Glasgow as well. So I was just kind of wondering if anybody had sort of favourite spots in Glasgow itself, kind of the city. Harriet, any kind of favourite spots in sort of the city of Glasgow?
I was kind of thinking about it, and I feel like it sounds like I really love food, because when it comes to like my favourite spots in the city centre, most of them are kind of like restaurants that I've been to with friends or with my roommates. So I know like it's kind of a really generic or basic answer that everyone says, but there's like a place called Sugo, which is right by Glasgow Central train station, which does pretty good pasta. Which usually I go to is like if I've done an assignment or me and my roommates just want to get out of the house, then we'll like treat ourselves to food. Otherwise, in terms of my favourite spots, I sound like I really love parks, but there's quite a few good parks in and around Glasgow, not just in the West End, but also like in the south side, so just south of the river as well. So I went to one recently called Queen's Park with a friend, where I didn't realise it has its own botanical gardens as well. So I went around there just for like a little break from studying too. So yeah, I'd say I like all the food options in the city centre, and then also just like the different parks in and around Glasgow as well. So you also kind of get that respite and that nature break.
That's amazing. Thanks so much, Harriet. Kaitlin, have you got anything sort of to add, just kind of the city of Glasgow and any favourite spots?
Yeah, Harriet actually had one that I was literally thinking of just before. I love Queen's Park. I only recently went there. It's so nice. But around Queen's Park as well, I really like the area because there's a lot of coffee shops, and there's a lot of like little like homeware shops and just like quirky little gift shops, and it's a really, really nice area to walk around. They also have a lot of charity shops and like bookshops and stuff. And so I recently discovered like the south side where Queen's Park is, and it's really, really nice. I like that. Other than that, I mean, this is in the West End, but I love the Botanic Gardens, especially when it's sunny. It's been sunny recently, and just being able to go to the Botanic Gardens and just sit there is so nice.
That's great. Thank you so much, Kaitlin. And Nyah, again, obviously a lot of your time is based kind of in the city I don't know how many times I'm going to say Sauchiehall Street, but yeah, Sauchiehall Street. It's quite iconic for nightlife, that street. So have you sort of been to any good sort of bars, clubs in Glasgow at all?
So Sauchiehall Street is the place to go for bars and clubs. I'll come out of clinic at like 5 o'clock and there's queues down the road for Firewater. So Firewater Thursdays. I would also recommend, there's a lot of hidden ones within the city, but there are quite a few bars and clubs down into the city, which is nice, and a bit further away from West End.
That's great, Nyah. Glasgow is kind of known for all of its kind of bars, restaurants. It has a massive live music scene as well. That's kind of one of the things that really attracts a lot of students too. So obviously we have all come to sort of a new city. I will mention that the University of Glasgow does have something called a SafeZone app, which is basically an app that we ask students to download onto their phones. And if they are ever in a situation where they don't feel safe, they can activate the app and it goes straight to our on-campus security team. And it doesn't matter if you're on campus or off campus, it works globally, and the security team will really kind of try and help you out. So I think, was it Kaitlin, did you maybe use the SafeZone app on your year abroad?
Yeah, so before you go abroad, we had an assembly sort of thing where they basically discussed the SafeZone app and told all of us to get it. It was quite important because you're supposed to have it when you're in Glasgow as well, but especially when you're going abroad, because there's like so many things that could happen. If you have this app, basically the university kind of has your location. So if anything happens, you can go on the app and you can just kind of press a button and the university will be alerted so someone can help you. So I think it is quite helpful just in giving peace of mind and knowing that there's always someone who's waiting to sort of support if needed.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Kaitlin. Yeah, so all the staff have it as well. So it's kind of a university-wide thing. And you're right, it does kind of give peace of mind just to know that you've got that contact there. A lot of students are really far from home. You know, we have a massive international student population as well. So it is good to just have that kind of extra peace of mind that on-campus security are there and they're there to help you if anything happens. So moving on, we're going to move on to kind of Glasgow and the rest of the UK now. So our kind of little motto at University of Glasgow is that we're closer than you think when it kind of comes to travelling. So sort of travel times and things. I think I used to surprise people when I used to say I used to fly fly up for university from London, because it is kind of just about an hour flight if you're flying sort of Gatwick to Glasgow. So what I'll do is I'll ask you all kind of just to remind us where you're from in the UK and how you would travel to university, approximately how long it would take, and also how much it would cost. I know that's a lot to remember. So we'll start off with Nyah. So you're from London, how you would travel to uni, how long it would take, and sort of the cost of it as well.
Hi, so I normally change between the trains and flying. The train is about 5 hours from Euston up to Glasgow, which isn't bad because it's direct, which means I can get some work done on it as well. And if you use student discounts like a rail card, you can get it pretty cheap if you book in advance. And in terms of flying, I'd say that's even better because you can get flights that are at least like as cheap as £15, and you can get that pretty often as well. I would also recommend getting a Young Scot card if you're moving from England to Scotland, because you can also get free bus trips to the airport, which makes it generally a lot cheaper to get back home. But you can also have the Young Scot card until age 21. But it's an amazing scheme and we don't have that in England, and it really helps coming back home and seeing family a lot easier.
Thanks so much, Nyah. Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned the Young Scot card. It does, as you say, give free bus travel, and it's not just in Glasgow, it's for the whole of Scotland. So you can use that for the whole of Scotland to just get free bus travel. You could literally spend a day just riding buses across Scotland for free. So yeah, it's a great scheme. Harriet, if we could move on to you. So just kind of remind us where you're coming from, how you would get to university, and sort of how long it would take and the sort of cost.
Yeah, so I'm from London as well. In terms of travel, I've done both the coach and the train. I really want to try a plane now though, because that sounds a lot more fun. For the train, it's direct, like Nyah was saying. So it's about 4.5 hours, 5 hours. And it's nice because you can just stay seated the whole time. So usually either I watch a film or I try and do work, where I'm actually going on the train back to Glasgow today as well. But I've done the coach as well, which is about 10.5 hours, so it's a lot. It's a lot longer. And usually for the coach, you'll stop off in Manchester or Birmingham on the way, and it's usually a little bit cheaper than the train. So for the trains, I have like a 16 to 25 rail card, and usually I try and book it in advance through a site like Split Ticketing, where they kind of calculate a way to make the journey as cheap for you as possible. And usually I'll spend about like in the range of 30 to 50 quid for like a trip one way, and then like 30 quid for the other way back. And then for the coach, usually I've spent 20 quid for like a journey one way. Sometimes if I'm lucky, I'll get it like a little bit under, like 15 quid if I book at the right time. But those are kind of the rough prices. I know that train tickets can get more expensive the closer you book. So if you book like the day before, they can be in like the 70 or 80 pound range, or even more than that. But if you book in advance or you use different sites, then it's a lot more manageable.
Thanks very much, Harriet. Yeah, you're so right with the train prices. If you book them far enough in advance, you can get a really good deal. If you're booking them last minute, the price can like quadruple. So yeah, you can get some good prices if you're organized enough. And Kaitlin, kind of same question to you. Where were you traveling in from, and sort of prices and how long it would take?
Yeah, so I'm traveling in from Newcastle, so it's not as far as London, definitely. It's only about 3 hours, and that's only because you have to do a connection as well in Edinburgh. And it's probably about 30 to 40 pound for a return, and it's usually kind of the similar price. You don't have to, I feel like with London, you have to kind of get lucky and get like a good time ticket, and you might be going at a really like inconvenient time. But from Newcastle to Glasgow, it's consistently like about 30 to 40 pound for a return. So it's pretty good. I can't complain too much. And I've never had to get the coach. There is a coach, but I'm just not going to get it. It's not worth it. It's just better to get the train.
Yeah, I was kind of listening to Harriet talking about the bus there. I never actually braved the bus, so I've never decided to do that. So well done, Harriet, for taking one for the team and being able to talk about the bus journey. I will just say that we have mentioned the train from Glasgow down to London. Edinburgh has the same kind of train line system as well. So the one in Glasgow is called Avanti, and then the one in Edinburgh is called the LNER, and they both kind of do Glasgow and Edinburgh all the way down to the two different London stations. So yeah, you have the option of going from Edinburgh as well. Okay, so thanks for that. So what we'll talk about next is a very kind of generic question. Why did you choose Glasgow? So why did you choose to study Glasgow? What was it about the university that made you want to come here? And we'll start off with Kaitlin this time.
I had only visited Glasgow a couple of times before I decided to study here, but part of it is because, and this is a smaller reason, but part of it is because there's so much music. I remember going to a concert in Glasgow with my friends a couple of years before I applied to uni, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm a big music person, so I thought, oh, when I go to Glasgow, I'll be able to go to concerts all the time, because everyone seems to go to Glasgow for some reason. So that really drew me in. And then also just the campus, because I had seen pictures of the campus, and it's such like an old worldy university. It just looked like somewhere I'd want to study. And yeah, knowing that it was like a big city and there'd be a lot of things to do as well kind of drew me in. I definitely want to go to a city university. Like I wanted to be able to do a lot of things. So, and then I also read the course description, and it seemed exactly what I wanted to study. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Kaitlin. And we'll move on to Nyah. So what made you want to do dentistry at Glasgow?
So I'd only actually visited Glasgow once before I accepted my offer and moved here, and that was for one of the open days, but it just felt so welcoming, and it honestly has really lived up to that. My parents also really loved Glasgow when we came, so that was a big contributing factor. And the campus was amazing. And like you guys said, there's such a good mix of city and then all the Highlands as well. You can go up to Loch Lomond on the weekend, or you can stay in the city. And then also the dental program was actually, I think it was the best in the UK. So I had to apply, and luckily I got an offer. And yeah, the people have been really friendly, and I'm happy I came to Glasgow.
Thanks so much, Nyah. But yeah, so we do rank pretty well consistently for dentistry. So I think this year we're number 2 in the UK. So yeah, I can see why that would be kind of a drawing factor to a lot of dentistry students as well. And finally, Harriet, why did you choose to do psychology at Glasgow?
I know when I came to Glasgow, I was less organised than you guys, so I hadn't actually seen what the university looked like until after I sent in my application. So I got to see it afterwards and go, oh, Glasgow's really pretty. So I'm glad I applied there. But in terms of why I decided to do Glasgow, I remember that I really wanted to just move up to Scotland and to be in a slightly different environment to London, just to explore a different part of the UK. And for my program in psychology, Glasgow's also quite good at that. So I remember looking through some of the modules and just kind of how they were teaching it. And it seemed like they had a really good kind of teaching team and staff, which I found that is true being here. So that also kind of drew me in as well.
Thanks very much, Harriet. It's so interesting when you hear everyone's reasons and how many people say it's when they visited that it kind of really swung it for them. So I studied here as well. So I did maths back in 2014, so 11 years ago. And the thing that really decided it for me was the open day. So I went to the open day and I just thought, yeah, this is the place for me. So I kind of encourage anybody to just go to open days, because they really do give you a feel for the university. So what we'll move on to now is something that is really important for students coming a distance away to go to university, and that is accommodation. So at the University of Glasgow, we have around 14 accommodation options. So those are our halls of residence. Most people do go into our sort of university-owned accommodation in their first year, and then in the following years they will tend to go into private residence. So yeah, I'd like to kind of touch on some of you guys' experiences. So did you go into our halls of residence and then go into private accommodation, or did you do something different? Harriet, we'll start with you. What kind of is your experience of accommodation?
So I went from university accommodation to private accommodation. So in first year I was in Kaitlin Gate, which is one of the student accommodations that's 10-15 minutes away from campus, and it's by a lot of the other student accommodations as well, so Kaitlin Street, Karen Cross House. And I was in a 5-person flat, so with 4 other girls, 2 of which I still live with now. And yeah, that was a really nice option for, number one, just having a place where I knew I was going to live as soon as I started university, and it was really convenient for getting into the city centre. I remember I used to be able to walk there, and it would take half an hour, give or take, maybe a little bit less. But also just walking to uni, where it only takes 15 or 10 minutes, which is great when you're feeling dead or it's early in the morning and you really don't want to be in class. And then since second year, I've lived in private accommodation. So right now I live in a flat in the West End, kind of in the Partick area. And that's a 20-minute walk to uni, I think. So it's still really, really reasonable. And yeah, I live with 2 of my flatmates from first year, actually, from university accommodation.
That's great. Thanks, Harriet. And Kaitlin, what about you?
Yeah, I also lived in halls in first year. I lived in Kaitlin Gate as well. So the same place as Harriet. And then I also lived in private accommodation. So second year I lived in a flat in Partick, and now I live in a flat on Great Western Road, so quite close to the university. And I think I've always lived quite close to campus, which is nice because, yeah, it's nice to be able to just walk to class.
That's great, thank you. Yeah, so all of our kind of halls of residence that the university own are sort of within reasonable walking distance of campus, so that is great. And a lot of them have like shuttle bus services as well, so if there are kind of those 9 a.m. that you really can't be bothered to walk, I think a lot of them offer like a shuttle bus service from like the university minibuses, so that's really good. And Nyah, what about you? What did you do in terms of accommodation?
I was also in Covenhall Gate actually in first year, which was great. You got to meet lots of people and it was quite close to the other accommodations, I thought, but the location was perfect. Like everyone was saying, it's a really good distance to the campus, but for me as well, it was right in the middle of campus and to the Glasgow Dental Hospital, so it was the same distance to get to either of them, and it was pretty easy and pretty safe to walk to. But now I do live in private housing, like just in a flat with my friend on my course, which gives us some more flexibility. But in terms of accommodation, I would say that there are a lot of options in first year depending on what you want to do. So like if you want a social accom or if you want a more private accom with en suites, there are all the options.
So as Nyah says, there are loads of different options, and obviously they range in prices as well. So kind of our sort of cheapest sort of accommodation offer would be from about £160 a week, and that would just be for sort of a basic kind of single room. So moving on from that, we will go on to cost of living. So that kind of moves nicely into cost of living. We are actually quite a good city in terms of cost of living, so we are very affordable sort of compared to the rest of the UK. On the National Student Money Survey in 2024, the cost of living per student was around £1,020 per month, so that's about £80 less than the UK average. And you will tend to find that obviously in Glasgow it is more affordable as a city, especially if we're coming from places like London. So what I'm going to ask you next is if you have kind of any top kind of money saving tips as a student. Obviously there's the student discount, so that is something definitely to look into. We'll maybe start with Harriet. Do you have any kind of money saving tips as a student?
I'd say my biggest money saving trick is just to like batch cook your meals if you can. So yeah, like going for like shops at whatever supermarket, whether that's like Lidl or Aldi or Morrison's, and then just planning out your meals whenever you have time. Usually because it means that you're not doing like loads of little shops during the week, which is where I realize a lot of my money goes into, but you're just doing like one big shop for the next 2 or so weeks. And then when you batch cook, you don't have to worry about making like a new meal every morning or evening. You just have like food that's already prepared. And that means if you're like going onto campus or you're on placement or you're just out and about, you already have food with you, so you don't have to like buy a sandwich here or there. And even if it's just like a few times a week where you have your own meal, I found that has helped me to kind of save a lot of money. Other than that, I mean, I love coffee, so I really like getting a coffee out, but if you can make a coffee at home, then also that like surprisingly helps you save money too. But also just making use of like student discounts. So like the Young Scot card, it's free bus travel and coach travel around Scotland until you're 22. So I know that like I'd take the bus sometimes to get to uni if I was really lazy. Or if I was like traveling around to meet a friend in the city centre, sometimes I take the bus instead because I know that would save money too. So yeah, those would be my biggest tips.
That's great. Thank you so much, Harriet. I was just sort of picturing your cupboards full of Tupperware there for the batch cooking. So yeah, that's maybe another student tip. Just stock up on Tupperware before you come so you can do lots of batch cooking. Nyah, what about you? Do you have any kind of like money saving tips?
I honestly second everything that Harriet just said about meal prepping and using student discounts, like uni days, rail cards. And also one of the societies that I'm actually in, which is the Glasgow Student Dental Society, for our balls, they hold a dress swap, which I think is a really good idea to save money rather than buying new clothes every time there's a new like event on campus. And I also think the university holds a lot of secondhand sales where you can buy clothes or things for your room. So keep an eye out for that.
That's a really good one, actually. I remember when I was at uni, they used to have these things called kilo sales, and you would buy just a kilo of clothes and it would cost a certain amount. I think like Queen Margaret Union used to hold a lot of those. So yeah, they're really great. So if they still do those, highly recommend those as a money saving tip as well. And finally, Kaitlin, do you have any kind of anything to add in terms of money saving?
Yeah, I think the main thing that I spend money on is food. So I think the best advice for students is just like to go to Lidl or Aldi, like just go a little bit further and get food from there, because it genuinely is so much cheaper. You can save a lot of money, and batch cooking as well. And also just getting all the club cards, like the Tesco club card does change everything. Like the Tesco on Byres Road, you will eventually and end up going there, and it just saves you so much money to have like I have like all the club cards. Like I've got a Co-op club card, I've got like a Glasgow club card. I'm very serious about it now. And also, if you do like coffee, because I also like coffee, and it is kind of expensive sometimes, I never used to do this, but now I'm committed to getting the little cards that you stamp so you can get a free one every time, because it does actually work. And there's a coffee shop called West End Coffee that you can, if you get 4 coffees, you get a free one, which I think is the best deal. So yeah, definitely get those little cards. And also just like on campus, there's a lot of food places that are cheaper than they normally would be. There's a Chinese restaurant in QMU and it's pretty reasonably priced. And then also the coffee shop that I said about earlier in the main campus is quite cheap. I think it's like £3 for a nice latte or something, so that's pretty good. So buying food on campus. And then also there's the Eco Hub now, so it's just opened and they do coffee for 50p. It's just like filter coffee, so you pour it yourself, but it's very, very cheap, and you can do work in there as well. And they also have like a clothes swap, so you can bring old clothes and exchange new clothes. And they also have a bit as well where you can get like, it's called like a student essentials hub, and they've got like electrical items and like cutlery and stuff, and basically students donate their secondhand goods and other students can just take them for free. So that's pretty good if you're looking for, when you move in and you're looking for a certain thing. And they also have a fridge as well, like a community fridge where they put food in it and you can just take the food, it's free. So yeah, there's definitely things to look out for.
That's great. Thank you, Kaitlin. And I really like what you said about the club card as well, because like the Tesco club card, a lot of the time you can get, if you get enough points, you can get like vouchers for restaurants and stuff. And there's so many restaurants in Glasgow. It's a really great way to kind of save a little bit of money if you go out to eat. So yeah, thank you so much. I will also mention that we have a lot of scholarships available for students from sort of the rest of the UK, and they're all available on the website. You can have a look to see if you're eligible for any of them. A few of them will be applied automatically. So for example, we have like an excellent scholarship, which is based on A-level results. If you get certain A-level results, a scholarship will be applied automatically, and that's all done through UCAS. But there are other ones where you'll need to apply specifically for them. So it's always worth having a look to see if you're eligible for any scholarships and whether there's an application process, because at the end of the day, it's just additional money that you can get to help with the cost of living. So we're going to move on to talking about careers now. So we do have a careers service available at the university to help with internships, employability opportunities, and also part-time jobs. So I was just wondering, does anyone here actually have a part-time job? Are you sort of working whilst you're studying? Yeah, so Harriet is nodding at me. So we'll start with Harriet. If you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I have one main part-time job where I only just started it kind of in the summer of third year going into fourth year. But I work in a bubble tea shop. So it's nothing kind of psychology or career related, but it's just like a bubble tea shop in the West End where I've been able to work there one day a week, so on Sunday with like a 10-hour shift. I've also worked at the uni as like a student ambassador since second year as well. So I'll pick up shifts during the week or sometimes for like weekends if it's like events outside of the uni where you have flexible hours as well. And that's been really helpful for just being able to like do like a campus tour for an hour, or to like set other people off for the campus tours, and just to kind of earn money throughout term as well, which is really good for when you've got like loads of exams coming up or an exam period where you can just pick and choose your shifts too. So I'd say if students are looking for jobs, oftentimes the university has some really good offerings as well. So it's worth having a look like on the online careers websites online and just seeing if there's anything that you can apply for.
That's great. Thank you so much, Harriet. And thank you for bringing up the kind of student ambassador role as well. So it's a really, obviously you three are all student ambassadors, but yeah, it's a really flexible way to kind of get some additional money, work part-time for the university, sort of delivering campus tours. And a lot of the time when I sort of go to UCAS fairs and represent the university, we'll take a student ambassador with us, and they can be anywhere. So I was in Northern Ireland a few weeks ago, and we took a couple of student ambassadors. So it's a great opportunity to travel as well and get paid and represent the university. So Yeah, it's great. So Kaitlin, you were also nodding at me when I was mentioning part-time jobs. If you'd like to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I have this I'm obviously a student ambassador. I have the same job as Harriet, so I do the setup for the tours, but I'm also nodding at what you said about the UCAS fairs because I also recently did UCAS fairs. So I went to Belfast as well for like an information evening recently, and then also one in London. So that was very fun because obviously you're paid to be there, but also it's just like a good opportunity to go to like a new city and yeah, you get to be a little bit of a tourist as well while you're there. So it's like the best of both worlds. I've really enjoyed being a student ambassador. And then I have an internship with the university. So I work in the university's career service and I've been doing that since like August. So that's quite good because it's not very many hours in a week. I think it's 5 hours a week, but it's just like a little bit of, you know, extra money, and it's just a really good experience as well, to be fair. And I think being employed by the university is a good option because the university understands that you have other, you know, assignments to do and things. So yeah, definitely look on the job hub. There's a lot of options.
Yeah, so that is another one of the good things that we know that obviously when the exams are, we understand that you guys need time off to revise and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that is another sort of good point of sort of working within the university as well. Nyah, I'm not sure if you were sort of nodding at me there. Obviously you do dentistry, which is very intense. So I was just wondering if you do like a part-time job as well.
I would say that being part of the Glasgow University student content creator team has been really flexible as honestly like a part-time job aside from dentistry. I think that you can do a lot of the stuff that you love to do. So I love to content create basically, and you can get paid to do that and you can meet other people on the university campus. So I don't know much about the career service, but I feel like there is a lot of job opportunities for what really aligns with you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Nyah. So as I say, the kind of careers service isn't just sort of for part-time work. It's also kind of once you graduate, they'll help you find kind of graduate jobs. They can help with like CV writing and interview skills and kind of all that good stuff. So it's definitely worth checking out. Okay, so moving on, we're going to talk about clubs and societies and the unions. So University of Glasgow is quite unique. We have two student unions. So we've got our QMU and we've also got our Glasgow University Union. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Freshers Week because I feel like these two unions really come into their own on Freshers Week. So they both host events kind of all day and all night. And it really is kind of sometimes difficult to choose which one to go to. So I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about your Freshers Week experience. So maybe we'll start with Kaitlin. What did you do for Freshers Week? Did you sort of tend more towards one union? Did you do other things? Kind of what was your experience?
Yeah, I think I ended up going to more things at the GU, but I did go to something at the QMU as well, I think. What I can remember is like there was a foam party or something. There was a lot of events on in Freshers Week, and I found it quite difficult to choose which one to go to because there was something going on at both unions every night. So I feel like I just ended up going with whatever my flatmates or like the people that I'd met were going to. And there was so much on. It was really nice. I really enjoyed Freshers Week because I just remember like there's so many freshers around and everyone's walking around the streets, and because it's such a small area, like you could literally just go up to someone in the street and start talking to them. It was such a friendly, like everyone really wanted to make friends atmosphere. But yeah, I went to a phone party. A lot of them were in GU, like in Hive, in like the nightclub in the bottom. But yeah, there was loads. I can't honestly, I'm trying to remember now, but it's like 4 years ago and I'm trying to remember, but it's difficult.
Great, thank you so much. I love that you talk about Hive because Hive was kind of after my time, so I feel so old when people talk about going to Hive because I've never stepped foot in there. We'll move on to Harriet. What was kind of your Freshers Week experience, and did you do anything at the unions?
So I remember for Freshers Week, I selfishly just went to whatever I wanted to go to. So I think I went to things both in the GU and the QMU. So I remember there was like a karaoke night at the QMU that I went to. That was pretty good. And there was like an ABBA sing-along in the GUU that I would recommend because I think each year they have like a sing-along event where like people just scream from a balcony for a while, somewhat in tune. And then I remember for a lot of the nights, I think I went to one, like a live band that was playing at the QMU. And then I went to a few things in the city centre as well. So I know like along Sauchiehall Hall Street and in the different clubs, they'd also have like freshers nights where like students from all the different universities in Glasgow would come. And I think they had like discounts on drinks. So I remember going there with like my roommates and like the people in the flat next to us as well in my accommodation. So I think I had like a mixture between like mainly being at the uni in the day. And then like during the night, I was either in the city centre or like in the unions where they were having different events.
Thanks, Harriet. That's such a good point, actually. Yeah, so during Freshers Week, all kind of the clubs and bars in Glasgow will also get involved. I think there are sort of 6 higher education institutions. So that includes kind of all the universities in Glasgow. So yeah, during Freshers Week, it's a huge event and sort of all the bars, restaurants really do get involved. So it's not just the unions. But yeah, Nyah, what was kind of your Freshers Week experience? What kind of things did you get up to?
It was honestly really similar to both Harriet and Kaitlin, to be fair. Following on from what Kaitlin said, I was also in GUU the majority of the week. One of the most memorable nights also being the phone party. That was just so different and really fun. But they also had other events throughout the week. So I think one night was like a Hawaiian themed and the other was neon, like neon paints. But exactly what they've said as well, where you could just walk up to anyone, even if they weren't in first year, like even if they were in second or third year, and they were all really friendly and yeah, just really welcoming.
Thanks very much, Nyah. So yeah, Freshers Week is a really good opportunity to kind of make friends as well, and not just sort of with people in your accommodation, kind of all over. You'll just literally meet everybody who is a fresher at some point during that week. So yeah, I have heard sort of people saying, oh, is it worth going to Freshers Week? Will I just sort of start the week of university? It really is worth it. It's a great social event. So yeah, so let's start talking about our societies then. So the University of Glasgow, I always say we've been around since 1451. So we've had the chance to kind of get it right with a lot of things. And we have over 300 societies. So I was just kind of wondering if you guys are kind of part of any societies and sort of any advice you would have in terms of joining them and what sort of things you get up to in the societies. Nyah, can we start with you maybe?
So outside of our dentistry society, which is quite big when it involves like all of first year to fifth year, and we do a lot of socials with each other, I'm also part of the university societies. I think in first year, I would really recommend doing what I did and just joining a bunch of ones that you seem kind of interested in, because they do a lot of taster weeks when you start, so you can get involved with as many as you want and then gradually drop off and like stay at the ones that you're most enjoying. And so I stayed with tennis, and I also mentioned the Glasgow Student Dance Company, and I feel like I just met a lot of like similar people there, and the ones that I've been really close, the friends that I've been really close with, I've met there. And not only are we like just doing tennis coaching or just doing dance classes, outside of that, there's also lots of socials. They put in a lot of effort to make it very social. So you're meeting people outside of your classes, and I've really enjoyed that.
Thanks, Nyah. Yeah, the social aspect of the societies is really, really great. It kind of is your opportunity to meet like-minded people at university. We'll move on to Kaitlin. Which kind of societies are you part of?
Yeah, in first year, I think I went to like so many societies. I think like because there was so many like taster events, because when you go to Freshers Fair, you see all the societies laid out, and you know you can go past every stall and they all have like leaflets and they all have events on. So during the first year, I went to quite a lot of different society events, which I don't really regret, because it's such a good opportunity to meet different people and just try different things. And there is so many societies as well. There's the most random societies, honestly. I did debating in first year, and I didn't really carry it on in second year, but I did it in first year. I met some friends through doing debating, and I did a debate competition as well, so that was quite cool. It was quite a good experience. It was in the GU. And I also did Amnesty Society in first year as well, so that was quite cool, because I remember going as part of Amnesty Society to one of the biggest protests that Glasgow's ever had. So I think that's one good thing about getting involved in societies, is you get involved in like Glasgow as well. Like you kind of, it's like a segue into like doing things that are, you know, good, really good experiences, and also kind of good things to put on your CV as well, I think. But more recently, sort of like in this past year, I've been on the Glasgow Guardian, the student magazine. So I've been a profile editor for one of the sections of the magazine, and I've been writing articles for that. So that's been really fun, because it's, I don't know, it just makes you feel a bit more involved in university life when you're sort of writing about it.
That's great. Thank you so much, Kaitlin. And I guess things like that are really good for once you have finished at university, and then you can talk about them when you're obviously trying to then get a job. It's really good for like interview content and CVs and everything like that. So yeah, but as well as kind of the social and the fun aspect, it's kind of the employability aspect of societies as well that are great. And finally, Harriet, what kind of societies are you part of, and what do you enjoy about them?
Yeah, I think for myself, I kind of realized after Freshers Week and trying out a bunch of different societies that I really like dance in general. So I've kind of tried a few different dance forms when I've been at the uni. So like this year, I've been part of the Highland Dance Society because I told myself I really wanted to try that whilst in Scotland. I used to be part of the Scottish Country Dance Society. I was their former beginners dance teacher for that class and former president of the society. So yeah, just feel like getting involved with that. I kind of ended up in club management as well. I've tried like a few hip hop classes as well. Figured out I'm really bad at hip hop, but I really enjoy doing it. But I've also been part of like a few clubs just for like a short period. So I was part of a club called GWEMS, which is like medic-based club for wilderness and extreme medicine, where I really just wanted to learn about like first aid and first responder skills. So I was with them for a year where I got to go to like their different training scenarios where you get to like simulate an emergency and see how like you would respond with the skills that you've learned in the classes. I've done like a few classes with the Knitting Society. So yeah, basically anytime there's been like kind of one-off events or things that I've seen like on social media where I've been interested or I've wanted to like try out the society, usually I'll give them like a message or I'll go to like a taster event. So I feel like that's helped to kind of get me involved in a lot of different areas and to kind of develop skills that I wouldn't necessarily have otherwise.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I really like what you said about doing hip hop, but you weren't that good at it. So I feel like that's the whole kind of point of the societies, is that you try something new and you like it or you don't. It really doesn't matter. It's just, I feel like never in life again are you gonna have so much opportunity to try out so many things than when you're at university. So yeah, so societies are a huge part of university life, and it's a really great chance to just find out what you like and kind of find out who you are as a person. So as well as our sort of 300 societies, we also have over 50 sports clubs. So these are kind of your very generic kind of tennis, hockey, sailing, badminton, all of those kind of good stuff. And a lot of people actually sort of find their sport when they start university. And there are some even Olympic athletes that actually began their career in their sports club at their university. So we have a really great sort of sports scene at Glasgow. And I always kind of shamelessly plug the fact that we're getting the Commonwealth Games next year, and it's very exciting. So I was just wondering if any of you are kind of part of any sports clubs as well as societies at all. Yeah, so Nyah, what kind of sports clubs are you part of?
So I'm part of the tennis sports club, which is part of GUSA. And yeah, that's been really fun to get involved with. And like you said as well, there are some off-campus sports facilities. So like sometimes we're at the Garscube Sports Centre, which is just like, it's nice to get out of campus sometimes. And other times we're in Kelvin Grove Park. It's all quite local, but that's been really enjoyable. Like I said, like there's lots of socials as well. I don't know if I'd count dance as a sport. It's not part of GUSA, but like Harriet said, it's been really good getting involved with that as well.
Thanks very much, Nyah. So we'll move on to a bit more of kind of the academic side of the university. So the University of Glasgow and kind of all universities in Scotland are quite unique because they have something called a flexible degree structure. So this will apply to the majority of our degrees. So the majority of our undergraduate degrees are 4 years long. And what we mean by a flexible degree structure is basically you have the opportunity to study 3 subjects in your first year. And then in your second year, you would either study 2 or 3 subjects again. And then at the end of your second year, you would choose to do your single honours subject and just do 1 subject for the remaining 2 years. Or you could switch it to a joint honours and do 2 subjects in your final 2 years and come out with a joint honours. So it's very similar to kind of the American system where you sort of pick majors and minors and that kind of thing. But yeah, you do come out with an undergraduate degree and it is 4 years long, unlike sort of English 3 years. As I say, most of the degrees will follow that structure. Some of them don't. So we call them professional degrees. So degrees that have kind of a professional accreditation attached to them. So things like dentistry wouldn't follow that structure. For something like dentistry, for the full time of the course, you would just do dentistry. Other subjects like accountancy and finance, engineering, medicine, veterinary wouldn't follow that flexible structure. But Harriet and Kaitlin, you study international relations and psychology. So you should have followed the flexible structure. So I'll start with you, Harriet. Would you be able to tell us kind of the 3 subjects that you chose and in your first year and why you chose them and kind of any thoughts on the more sort of flexible degree structure at Glasgow?
Yeah, so for my first year, I studied French, psychology, and philosophy. I had to actually think about that for a second as well. With my main degree at the time being philosophy and psychology. So I came into university with that as a joint honours. And I liked the fact that because I was in the College of Arts, I kind of could choose any subject as an elective that was kind of humanities based, where like I could choose any language that I wanted to study. I think they had like kind of theology and some other subjects offered as well. And then when I went into second year, I actually dropped philosophy from my degree. So I changed it into a single honours for just psychology. And then for my electives, I had geography as a new one that I picked up. And then I managed to change my like French language elective into a comparative literature elective for second year as well. So yeah, I think the flexible degree structure is really good for the fact that when you come into university, it's quite hard to know specifically what you want to do and to narrow it down to one subject straight away, especially because I feel like coming from school, you might have multiple interests or there might be subjects that you've never seen before that the university offers. So having electives is really good because you can just explore like different avenues or different subjects that you might not have seen before. Like I know there's an elective for like social and public policy as a subject, which is really cool. And so you get to kind of try all of them out. And at least for me, that kind of helped to solidify that I actually just wanted to study psychology in isolation, even though I really appreciated having all of those philosophy classes. So I think the flexibility is good for just giving you the time to figure out what it is that you ultimately want to study, rather than feeling like you kind of have to rush and know straight away.
That's great. Thank you, Harriet. I feel like you're the perfect person to talk about the flexible structure because you have literally taken the flexible structure to the max there. And it's interesting as well that you did French, because another sort of unique thing about Glasgow is that if you want to do a modern language, you don't need to have studied it at A level or higher. So you don't need any kind of previous experience with that language in order to take it. So yeah, you demonstrated that quite well in the fact that you sort of added French in there. But yeah, it's kind of a really nice, unique thing about Glasgow again. And Kaitlin, international relations, kind of what were your two other subjects in first year?
First year, I did French as well. I did French, international relations, and Central Eastern European studies. And then second year, I did the same, but I did Russian instead of French. And I was really happy that I got the chance to do that because I'd never taken Central Eastern European studies before, actually. It was like a new subject for me and I really enjoyed it. And I actually almost considered like changing my degree to Central Eastern European studies because I had never studied anything like that before. And I actually enjoyed it a little bit more than IR in first year. I decided not to change. I'm glad that I didn't change. But at the time, it's good that I got the opportunity to try something new. And also with the French and just being able to do languages, like French I'd already studied before, but Russian I'd never studied it before, so it was like completely new. And it was cool to just be able to have the opportunity to try something new, like try a new language alongside doing your actual degree as well. And having the option to change, even if I didn't actually change my degree, I knew that I had the option to do that. And I think that made me like, it was comforting to know that I could do that if I needed to. And I had a little bit more time to think about it.
That's great. It's Kaitlin. So that kind of is quite a good summary of the sort of flexible nature of the degree system at Glasgow. And as I say, it's like a Scottish sort of thing. So Strathclyde, Edinburgh, St Andrews, they will all kind of offer their degrees in this kind of 4-year flexible structure. So another great reason to come to Scotland to study. So what we'll sort of move on to now is kind of our study abroad opportunities. So we do have the option to study abroad at the University of Glasgow for the vast majority of our degree courses. We work with sort of 300 partner universities across the world. And there's a huge sort of scope to be able to study abroad in terms of whatever subject you're doing and whatever sort of region you'd like to go and study. You can do it for a whole year. So you could do a year abroad, or we also do have the option to just do a semester. So Kaitlin, I know you've sort of already touched on the fact that you did do study abroad when you were talking about the SafeZone app. Could you maybe tell us a little bit more about it? Was it a year abroad? Was it a semester? And which university did you go to? And sort of what was your experience? What did you love about it? What did you maybe not like so much about it? Just, let us know.
So I did a year abroad. I did a year at Sciences Po. It's a university in Paris. in France. I chose that university basically because, well, for one, it's like a really, really good political science university. So I wanted the opportunity to study there. Obviously, too, because of the language, I really wanted to study in French. So I took like most of my courses in French and some in English. And it was really intense, but it was like such a good learning experience. It was such a good like immersion and just like being amongst like a different culture. And like, I think it's a benefit for you as a student as well, because like you go from one university to a completely different university abroad, and you can kind of see how they teach is different to how they teach at Glasgow, and how they assess is different. For example, like I have never done a presentation at Glasgow until 4th year, but most of my assessments when I was doing my study abroad were presentations in front of the class. So that was kind of nerve-wracking and like a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I think it's such a good skill to have, and you can obviously put that on your CV and it improves your public speaking. It kind of develops you as a learner, like you learn how to learn in a different way to different requirements. So I definitely think it's good, like academically. And then just personally, I think the experience of studying abroad is such a good experience. And if you can do it, you absolutely should, because everyone I've spoke to, everyone who's been abroad has had like an amazing experience no matter where they've gone. And it's just, I think it's quite a stereotypical thing to say, but it's quite a transformational experience. Like you go from, you kind of understand yourself in a different way after it, because you've literally like lived in a completely different place. Like you had to build up like friendships from scratch. You've had to like learn to live in a new culture, maybe a new language. And it kind of, I think this is probably a little bit of the bad side of it as well, but I wouldn't even say bad. I think it's just part of the process. I think the bad side of it is that it kind of feels a little bit like first year again. Like you don't know anyone, you're in a new place, you have to like settle in, everything's new, it's all kind of overwhelming. You're going to like freshers events again, and people are asking what you study and where you're from. Like it's kind of like going backwards a bit, but it's so worth it, because yeah, it just gives you the opportunity to meet friends from like all across the world, I still keep in contact with my friends that I made on study abroad. So now like I've got friends who are like in Canada and like New Zealand and stuff. Like it's really cool to make those kind of networks with people abroad. And then just like the experiences that you have while you're studying there, like studying in Paris was so fun. There's so much to do there. Like there's so many like free museums for students, and there's so much like history. And also I was able to like travel around a little bit while I was there, so I saw more parts of France. And yeah, everyone I spoke to who did study abroad has like a similar experience. Like they just absolutely loved it. And it's just like, obviously it's a year of study, but it's also like a year of fun. And if you're doing a 4-year degree anyway, you might as well do one of them abroad, I think. So yeah, definitely I would say to everyone to do it. It's so worth it.
That's great. Thank you so much, Kaitlin. I've just got a little bit of a follow-up question, just because I'm quite interested in this. So when you do your year abroad, and then obviously you come back and do another year at Glasgow, how easy is it to go from what you've learned in that university in that year back into Glasgow? Is the course exactly structured the same so that you've learned everything that you would have learned at Glasgow? Or is it a little bit more of a challenge because obviously with your classmates, you'll have been at a different university?
No, it's not a challenge, because the way that it works is before you go abroad, you kind of have a study advisor, and they approve the courses that you're going to take abroad. So they kind of make sure that whatever you're studying abroad, you would cover like the basics of what you would study in Glasgow. So for us, we had to take one core IR theory course. So I did mine abroad, and it would have been quite a similar course to what I would have taken if I was in Glasgow anyway. So they make sure that you take like the requirements that you would have taken if you were in Glasgow, if that makes sense. So you don't like miss out on any course content that you should have studied. And for people who, so you have to, for IR, you have to either do qualitative methods or quantitative methods. And if you don't do that when you're on study abroad, you can just do it in 4th year. So yeah, no, you don't miss out on anything. They make sure that you like everything you do is like similar to what you would do anyways if you were in Glasgow.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. It's just kind of a personal question that I've always sort of wondered how you sort of adapt with that year abroad. So thanks for answering it. So year abroad obviously has loads of benefits, as you've mentioned. One of the other benefits is sort of the financial benefit to it as well. So our tuition fees for rest of UK students studying at Glasgow are currently £9,535. But if you choose to do a year abroad, that actually goes down to £1,430. So any year abroad will only cost you £1,430 in terms of tuition fees. So yeah, it has its benefits, and that is kind of an additional one. What I will say as well is if you are doing a language, so if your degree, for example, is in French, you will have a compulsory year abroad. So instead of doing a 4-year degree, you would do a 5-year degree where you would have a compulsory year abroad. And that compulsory year abroad, you don't pay tuition fees. So it's essentially another free year. So yeah, so you'd pay for your 4 years at the university, and then the year abroad would be free. So yeah, there's a little bit of a benefit there as well. So yeah, so I think that pretty much sums up everything that we were going to talk about today on the podcast. I will just say thank you so much to you three for imparting your knowledge as our wonderful student ambassadors. So you can check out our student made vlogs on YouTube. We have loads of student made vlogs. We have quite a few on accommodation as well. So we have sort of students that are sort of touring their accommodation on YouTube. And some of those videos are great. They're quite funny. So I would highly recommend going and have a look on there. Follow us on Instagram. We do loads of reels on Instagram and we make loads of TikTok videos as well. You can chat to our current students if you have any questions for them, and you can do that through Unibuddy at glasgow.ac.uk/ask-a-student. It's quite easy to navigate from our website. I think when you go onto the website, the little box pops up anyway, so you can just click on that and you can speak to a student. And also you can check out our season 1 of Get to Know Glasgow podcast. So we have loads of different episodes of kind of loads of different types of students. We have international ones, we have Scottish ones. So yeah, have a look on there. You can listen to the podcasts on kind of all the major podcast providers, so like Apple Music, all the main ones. So yeah, thank you again so much, guys, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.